I go by Gary Smith. I'm Dr. Gary Smith to a number of students of mine and other friends and colleagues, but it isn't the title. It's who I am as a person, as a man, and my my whole identity has been wrapped up into working with people, helping them develop, helping them understand themselves better, helping my community in its approach to dealing with a number of issues, whether it's addictions, whether it's family violence, whether it's just family and community problems. So between myself, my colleagues, and staffs over the years, it's been an opportunity to try to make a contribution. Short term isn't the answer. Time is a very important ingredient in any of us healing, whether it's physical problems, mental problems, social problems, addiction problems. It takes time to address the whole person, the mind especially. Well, I was asked to teach a course at the university on addictions back in the really the late 90s. And I had done my own research on it and knew of some people within my own family. An uncle of mine had been very much an alcoholic, and there were others in my circles who had gotten into some of the early drugs. And so I began to develop my curriculum, and at the same time CBS offered a special on creative and effective addiction programs. And one of the programs featured was Habilitat, among about 7 others. And so in the late 90s, my wife Lynn and I came here, made a phone call, and at that time, both Vinny, the founder, and Vicky said, let's give it a try. So it took about a year to a year and a half, and the family approved of it, the Marinos approved of it, and so that's how I learned about Habilitat. And then I began to integrate my students into an experiential part of that course. And so that began to build a relationship, and we began to come here for a number of years, about 16 years of students coming and learning and integrating into the program and volunteering at the same time. My own research into the treatment world, my own understanding of the approach, which in my mind is holistic. Many of the programs say they are, but they really don't treat the whole person. And Habilitat has done that since its inception. And I've watched the success rate. I've looked at the other programs. Many of them are very glitzy, short-term, not as effective over time. You buy your way in and you buy your way out. And over time, I could see where Habilitat was developing men and women to be successful after being here in a full-time approach. So that interested me a great deal. And I know from my own work in counseling and human development that short term isn't the answer. Time is a very important ingredient in any of us healing, whether it's physical problems, mental problems, social problems, addiction problems. It takes time to address the whole person, the mind especially. So that was my reason for selecting Habilitat as one of the model programs in my course. in my curriculum. And then I had a quality program to compare and contrast other programs to as students studied and begin to understand the addiction world a little bit. Just knowing from its inception, from the start of Habilitat, and reading both of Vinny's books, I could see that not only was the theory, but the practice also drove the theory of treatment. And the practice was important because it brings people to a point where they are confronting themselves with the help of staff and other residents. And that confrontation, they begin to realize that there is the potential for change. But it also takes a lot of work. And they may not buy into that, but what I could see, especially after I began to visit, was that as they bought into that concept of family, strategy, of a therapeutic environment, and an understanding in the mind that the mind is key to change, that resonated with me a lot. And that's why. It was a solid rationale for addressing a problem that is very deep within the soul of the person. Well, I see at least three areas. I see that in our society at large, there is a total misunderstanding of addiction and of the addiction world. And the powers to be try to prescribe, make policies that really they don't understand if they're going to work or not. So the policymakers, in my mind, is one of the big issues, in that they don't understand, they don't realize the depth of the issue within the person. Secondly, I think that there is still a lot of resources that could be designated for addiction, because we know that addiction can often be a multi-layered issue, from personal behavior to some mental health issues, to some community issues, to parenting issues. So it's a multi-faceted problem that needs resources, not quick fixes, and not fixes that are short in duration. Changing a life, changing a mind, changing the very essence of a person requires time, it requires resources, and it requires knowledgeable people taking care of those issues. And I think thirdly, our whole environment of family structure today, family dissonance today, is really in danger, or at least contributing to our problems in addiction, because the needs of the developing child are not being understood or met by parents. And I'm not castigating parents, but even our school systems do not do a good job of preparing men and women to become moms and dads. So the role modeling today is all over the picture. So those three, I think, are key contributors, are key problem areas to this whole world of addiction. Recently, about a year ago, Jeff Nash, the executive director of Habilitat, came to visit our area in Binghamton, New York. And Lynn and I, my wife and I, had the pleasure of hosting him while he was visiting. And one of the activities that we did was to offer a full day seminar on addiction and also the approach that Habilitat takes. And this was opened up to professional social workers, counselors, administrators of human service agencies, politicians, and others in the community who run organizations that try to address the needs of humans and what they're doing in their lives and what they need in their lives. That particular day was very well attended. It was subscribed to by all of those populations. And what we did was to not only inform, but we educated. Jeff was able to bring his philosophy and the philosophy of Habilitat to our area. And it really opened up an awareness of a successful program that in our part of the world, because we're 6,000 miles away, that had never happened before. So the value of that was that it benefited our community. It helped the practitioners that are working with people in our community. It certainly brought Binghamton University to another level of awareness within its community as well as across our region. And fourthly, it helped bridge some gaps with other counties. There were 3 counties that Jeff and my wife and I visited while Jeff was with us, and those 3 counties also gave us a good morning or afternoon session of explaining to they and their colleagues about Habilitat and the opportunities. And I'm still getting requests for information. We have some people from Binghamton that have looked at Habilitat as an option. And we also know that there are people who would take the opportunity to provide help in getting people to Habilitat if they really want to come and cannot afford to do so. Our reasons for coming back are centered around certainly our relationship with Jeff, our relationship with Habilitat. We've been coming here a long time. We support the program various ways. We always enjoy meeting residents, new residents, or re-meeting residents that we've met in the past. We also enjoy meeting graduates who are now in the community and working. The opportunity to have some coffee with them or a breakfast or a lunch. But it also allows us to express our interest in the lives of people. So it's the investment, probably, that keeps us coming. And we have a daughter now that works here in Hawaii, so we have a chance to visit with her. She's very well affiliated with Habilitat, and we are constantly thinking of Habilitat, its residents, its staff. So it's really part of our lives. It's a part of us that no other organization has. Well, I think that one of the biggest strengths of Habilitat and its mission is that whole concept of bringing a man or woman into this facility and dedicating all kinds of resources and time and knowledge to helping those individuals make life-changing decisions. The teaching of using the mind for making choices, gaining insights about self, determining how to plan for the future, and really understanding that they are much more than a habit. They're a full human being. They're a full entity. You know, Socrates, a Greek philosopher, a long time ago said, "An unexamined life is a life not worth living." And I look at that and I think to myself, how many people in our world ever really take the time to examine and become aware of who they are? Whether it's under these conditions where they're getting help for addiction treatment or just trying to understand life. Habilitat offers that opportunity. I never want to end a day without reflecting a little bit on what I did and how well I did and what I need to do different. And I see that same model being taught here. My advice would most likely be, take a look at how life is today. How do you see it? And if it could be better, what would that look like? How would you make it better? How would you change? What would you change? Who do you want to be? Where do you want to be? Where are you going? Those kinds of questions I would advise families and those under the stress of any kind of a substance. Take a look at yourself. You know, are you happy? Are you content? Are you balanced? And if not, then what would it be like if you were? And if you really want that, then there's a program that can help you. The depth of the approach means that the program intensely helps residents understand and confront many of the issues that brought them here in the first place. And the residents are the content. They are the finished product when they successfully complete the program. And we know, from at least what I've seen and researched, that even those who don't necessarily graduate are still, many of them are still succeeding out there because of what they learned here at Habilitat. The 3 years, the 24 to 27 to 36 months that a person commits to is not just time in holding. It's time in treatment. It's time in intervention on a daily basis with the help of staff that helps them think about everything they are doing as a resident. And I think one of the issues that we want to mention here is that along with treating the person, Life skills are being taught here that often lead to a career path, a vocational change, and you couple that with treatment, and you have really helped the person has been helped in looking at a path that they can follow upon completion. So that in-depth strategy is choices, the mind, the physical wellness, the emotional balance and control, the spiritual centering. All of that needs to be well before a person really can move forward and reach whatever potential they have. I know that there are times and there are a number of people in all of our communities who need help with issues of addiction. And I know the program. I've been affiliated with it for a long time. I know its success rates. I know it makes a difference. And I highly recommend that if you're at all interested in getting help, you can contact them at habilitat.com and let them know that you're interested, and they will respond. And they will, and they can make a difference. And I've watched them over time, and I'm very, very impressed and remain so.